From the Sorceress Book of Memories by Mem Jarchow. She closed the book, placed it on the table, and finally decided to walk through the door. She mouthed the incantation without sound and left the cottage. She would not die alone, she vowed. Reward entailed risk, her mantra with the summer solstice smoldering in her eyes. She walked in the last light up the dune, dark sand pulling her back and filling her nostrils. At the top of the dune, a fierce wind rose, cutting her cheek with shards of black glass that glittered in the falling light. Angry shadows moved across the dunes, cast from dreams. She was alone now, but not forever. Shrieking sprites with needle teeth and glittering eyes rose from the sand, tasting the wind for her fear. She dropped to the sand, pinpricks of blood seeping from her hands, and dug. Things slithered out of her way begrudging, until something didn't. She grabbed, fingers blood slick, but dragged the hard, warded creature from the hole. She dangled it from a leg as the sand swirled a vortex crescendo of sound and pain. She could change the weave of her life, against the will of the gods, be part of a whole, not a one. Anita Krigma Selenagat, she sang against the gale in the old tongue. Bring my lover to me. Let him leave his wife for me. She cut out the hard marble of the toad's heart as it screamed its death and felt her world spin. She could be the woman at his side instead of the one in his bed, never alone for the eternity of time. With a final cough, the wind died, and the sand fell in a dark curtain like a wave of black rain. Shadows ran from her, and the only sound was the last trickle of blood leaving the toad. She could feel her king coming. A hard smile crossed her face, and she sat in the bloody sand to wait for him. Fingers of light shrank away from her. He would be riding his large bay from the castle to get her. Proud, fierce, he matched the beast, born to be a king. Weak in the ways of men, prey to their base urges, he'd wanted a sorceress to bed, and he'd gotten one. Perhaps not the most powerful, but she smiled enough of one. Enough that she didn't want to live in squalor in this poor cottage at the edge of his hunt, awaiting his convenience. The sound of underbrush, heavy hooves plodding. He sat astride an old, tired horse, not the bay, his face to her. An imbecile! Worse, a golem thing, half dead, his face grayish-green, lit up from joy at the sight of her, his lady. He babbled, and spittle flew from his mouth. Had she said a word wrong? Missed a beat? She choked a laugh off with a sob, and he slid from the poor beast and scrabbled to her on hands and knees. He licked her bloody hands and cooed adoration with his ruin of the king's face. A dozen futures flashed before her, all ending in pain, shame, and death. They would be hunted at first light, her hideous golem king and his whore sorceress. The knife came out of the obsidian sand with a whisper, and she would not die alone.